Hey guys, welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is all about fall tiered tray decor. I have compiled some of my favorite tiered tray size DIYs to show you. I love these. I hope that you enjoy them as well. If you like crafting, DIYs, dupes, hacks, thrift flips, or just creating in general, I would love if you would consider subscribing and becoming my crafting BFF. And if you like anything you see in today's video, remember to hit that thumbs up. But let's go make some DIYs. This is such a fun project to use the tumbling tower blocks for. So these are just the tower blocks from Dollar Tree that I have, and I'm going to make some little pumpkins. And it's easier if I will try and explain the best I can in words, but you can kind of watch what I'm doing and that will hopefully make the most sense to you. So I start with my front tumbling tower block and I glue two pieces behind it, and I'm just going to fan my way out, and so it kind of goes in steps out from that front piece. Now I'm just using hot glue. If you wanted to use like some wood glue as well, you could do that. I don't plan on these getting a whole lot of like use other than just sitting around, so I didn't feel like they needed anything stronger than hot glue, but that's up to you. So can you kind of see how that shape is there? That is one side of the pumpkin, and I will repeat this process and to do it on the back side. But this time we'll be working our way in. So I will glue my pieces going inwards, so that way it's just kind of the reverse. So I hope you can kind of see there. So I start to stagger them back because we're going to go to a point on that other side. So you can see this kind of coming together here. Now I've seen a lot of different ways to glue tumbling tower blocks to make pumpkins. This one, I actually just really liked the way that this staggered look here was. So that's why I chose to go it this way. So you could even go to Pinterest and look up some different ways to do these. So these have been around for a while and I just have never had the opportunity to make some. So I thought it would be kind of fun. So you can kind of see here. Now, what you'll do is I'm just putting a little bit of glue here, and I'll just kind of, if I need to pinch my blocks closed a little bit to make that fit perfectly, that's what I will do. But look at how cute that looks. Starting, doesn't really look like a pumpkin yet, but kind of starting to. So I decide I want 3 total of these pumpkins, and so I just repeat the process. Now you can stagger the tumbling tower blocks out a little bit further to kind of widen this, or bring them in to make a more narrow pumpkin. You can kind of do whatever you want to give any variation in size or look to each of your different pumpkins. But you can see I'm just repeating that same process here. This one I staggered them out a little bit further, so it is going to be a little bit wider, but I really like the fact that I have control a little bit over making them kind of different, because no 2 pumpkins are the same, and no 2 of your DIY pumpkins like this will be the same either. So here are 2 of them. They are super cute, and I end up making a 3rd one the same process. And so now for the fun part of trying to paint and embellish these however I want. So if you've watched me do any of my fall crafts, I have been using like the pumpkin color from Waverly, the moss color, and also just the plaster color. I love those 3 colors for the pumpkin variation. So you can paint these in whatever colors you would like to. And I'm just gonna paint all of these. You just wanna make sure you get into all of the little nooks and crannies and areas there, because there is a lot of different little corners on there. So I'll just go through and do those 3 colors on each of these pumpkins. This step is completely optional, but I really wanted these to look weathered and distressed and just really old and worn. So I just took some antique wax on the bottom of a stencil brush here, and I got kind of heavy with it because that's the look that I was going for. So it's just up to you. You can tailor this to your style, but I just dipped my brush in that antiquing wax and I barely wiped any off. So it's not really like a dry brushing, just you don't want it goopy on the end of your brush if that. Hopefully you can see how that looks here of how I'm doing that. And then as your brush kind of dries, you can kind of go over some of the edges to give them a little bit more definition. Now to do the stems, I just took some Spanish moss here and I stuck that down in. You could see with my finger, it creates a hole, and I painted some tumbling tower blocks. I painted 2 green and 1 brown, and I just used the antiquing wax on the brown one. And that's how I'm doing these stems. So you'll see I stick my finger in there, it creates like a hole, so it will be easy for me to stick the glue down, and then I can just slip that little other block down there for the little stem. And I just repeat the same process on this 3rd one. You can definitely leave the Spanish moss as long as you want. I kind of gave it a little bit of a trim to help it kind of so you could see the stem more. But look at how cute these look. They would be perfect for a tiered tray or just really anywhere, a cute little desk ornament even. I just love how these turned out, and they're going to be so versatile. Most excited for you guys to see this one today. So you can see that I have drawn a triangle on a couple pieces of scrap wood that I have. I do 3 of them and cut them out with my table saw, and then I sand the edges to make them have a little bit of a rounded look to them and make the wood a lot more smooth. I am then taking, I believe this is a hazelnut color of the chalk paint, and I just water it down. This makes it just more of a stain to go on the wood. I want this to look like pie crust. We are going to make a slice of pumpkin pie out of these blocks of wood. They're kind of like triangle blocks, I guess. But I do take some pumpkin Waverly chalk paint, and I do add a little bit of the antiquing wax to it just to kind of give it a little bit of a darker tone so it's not so bright. And I do cover the next 2 triangles completely, all sides, front and back. I do take these little half beads, I have 5 of them, and I do just wipe what's left over of that hazelnut kind of stain that I've made out of the hazelnut chalk paint there, and I do wipe down each of those. I do glue each of my layers together here, so I just use wood glue and then a little bit of hot glue. And then my first layer goes on really well. So I lay that on, and then I do lay it on my table to push it down, make sure it's all level on that front layer that everybody's gonna see. On this next layer, it kind of doesn't adhere as well in the beginning. It kind of, I don't know if there's just some uneven spots or what it was, but when I go to push this down, it doesn't want to kind of push towards the other one, if that makes sense. You kind of can see there's a little bit of a gap there. So I do get out my wood clamps there and clamp it together. And then I do just take these little half beads and glue them on for a little bit of pie crust embellishment here. I just start with the middle one. I just use wood glue and kind of work my way out on those. I have this little burlap flower from the wedding section at Hobby Lobby, so I'm just going to glue that on, and as I do, I totally drop it. And it actually ends up being like a happy little accident because it kind of took off a little bit of the glue, so it was able to go on, and it did not like bunch all around or come seeping out or anything like that. I take just a little bit of burlap ribbon and kind of fold it over here kind of roughly, if you will. I'm not really sure what technique you would call this, but I do just glue it onto the back. This just kind of helps give it a little bit of that pie crust look on the back. That little flower acts as the whipped cream on there. I just think this turned out so cute. I'm loving how this is coming along so far. This part would be completely optional, but I did use my Cricut and cut out the words fresh pumpkin pie, and I did just put that on each of the little layers there. I thought that that kind of turned out so cute, kind of a little take on the little books or crates that you see. I think this turned out so cute. I absolutely love this. As one of my most favorite pieces I've made. Have you seen these little votives at Dollar Tree? This particular one is a matte white, but it was a little bit dirty on the side. So I'm just going to freshen it up with a white color of paint here and go all over it. Now you could do this with any votive from Dollar Tree and paint it whatever color, orange, white, green, whatever color you were wanting to do. Now I'm just taking that little spot where your votive would go, and as you saw, I'm just filling it with some hot glue, and I'm going to put some Spanish moss all around just to kind of soften the top of that pumpkin I'm making it a pumpkin, it's a votive, but I'm making it a pumpkin, but I'm just kind of masking where that votive would go. Now I have this little stem from another pumpkin that I used for a different project that I didn't need the stem for. But you could easily use just like a stick from your yard would work totally fine. And I'm just using some hot glue to glue that. And that is it for this particular little pumpkin. And this is a hefty little pumpkin. Now I wanted a second little pumpkin to go along with this, so I'm taking this Dollar Tree pumpkin and I'm just removing the florals off of it. And I found this French newspaper printable online, and I'll link that below. And then I have this little kit that kind of ages things here, and I just found it at JoAnns, but I've seen them at Hobby Lobby. It's not necessarily necessary to do this, but I wanted to age this, and I didn't have any like cream paper to print this newspaper on. I just printed this off just on my regular inkjet printer. And then I'm just going in with this little dabbing tool, as you can see here, and just dabbing it all over. And it's just a different, you can see how aged they all end up looking. It took me maybe 3 or 4 minutes per page to do, so it does take a little bit of time, but I was so pleased with how it turned out. So I want to decoupage this to the pumpkin, and I'm going for a French country flair, kind of French country farmhouse look. And so that's why I thought the French newspaper would be really cute. And I'm going to decoupage this to the pumpkin. So I'm just ripping it down into just there's no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just ripping wherever it feels good, whatever size, and I just do that I end up only using 2 of the pages, and then I still don't use all of the pieces there. But then I'm just going to do a typical decoupage process. This is just using Mod Podge, and it can be glossy, it can be matte, it can be satin, it can be whatever finish of Mod Podge. Any will work just fine. And as you can see, I just put the Mod Podge on the pumpkin, and then I just take the strips of paper, place them on, and then I'll go over the top of the strip of paper with some more Mod Podge to make sure that it is completely sealed and down. Now where the pumpkin has grooves, I take my brush and I'll just kind of dab down in those grooves as I'm putting the Mod Podge on the top and those papers on. So that way it keeps that shape of the pumpkin. And so just kind of do that if you're doing on a texture, you want those ridges to really show up. And I don't know if I show me doing that on here, but I'm just letting you know that I do that so that way those ridges show and it doesn't have any air pockets there. So you just kind of will tap down on those ridges. And this is such a fun and easy project. Honestly, my husband walked in while I was doing this and thought it was so silly. Like he was so confused at what I was doing. But when I showed him how it ended up turning out, he was like, wow, that's actually really cool. So it was a kind of a fun process. And this is just, again, no rhyme or reason to this. You're just covering up that blank space of the pumpkin with your paper. And you could do this with any type. It wouldn't have to be like this particular French newspaper. You could use tissue paper. You could print another design out. If you have like some wrapping paper or something, you want to use fabric. And then I'm just showing you could use just a stem off of another pumpkin, but I found this perfect little stick down on our farm. And so I grabbed it and I just stuck it all the way down through the styrofoam. And then I wanted to add a little curlicue here with this little pipberry. So I'm just wrapping this around. And then to get the curlicue on that, I just wrap it several times around a paintbrush or pencil or something. And that gives it that cute little curly look. And then just trim it down to size. I'm loving the look of the Spanish moss for this French country farmhouse look that I'm going for. And in all of the pictures that I looked up of different things, they all used this, or most of them used like the Spanish moss to kind of soften it. So I'm just gluing that around the top of the pumpkin, but underneath where I put that little pipberry. And I think this turns out so cute. I think these both together are adorable. They would look perfect on a tiered tray or just set in a little vignette like this. You could do one without the other very easily, but I just think these turn out adorable. My mom recently gave me a bag of stuff that she was going to take to the thrift store, and in that bag was a bunch of these little blocks. Now, I remember these from when I was younger. She used to have a lot of fun different sayings that she had on them, cute little designs and everything, but clearly she was done with them and they are not quite my style, so I thought I would give them a little bit of an update. So I'm just taking 3 of these, and there was like 20 or more of these blocks. There's a lot of them, so I've got a lot of DIYs with these coming up, I'm sure. Anyway, I just covered them all in some white paint, just some chalk paint. It did take several coats just because of the dark letters on there. I probably could have sanded them down, but I was feeling, I guess, a little bit lazy this day. And so I just went over and painted them all and gave them a really good coat. Now I'm just trimming some burlap ribbon. You could easily do just some regular burlap or whatever you would like. You could completely skip this step if you wanted to, but I thought it would be kind of fun to add this little burlap on here as a little bit of a texture. So I'm just peeling a couple of the strings off around the edges to kind of fray it. I wanted this to look a little bit rustic, maybe not quite so uniform. I know that the burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, it seems to, for lack of a better term, fall apart a lot easier. So it could probably look a little bit more rustic, because I know that when I've made things with that, I feel like the strings fall out of it really easy, like the burlap weave. I didn't have any of that on hand, so this is just some I had from Hobby Lobby. So I just went ahead and cut this down to size, and then as I did that, I was just peeling pieces off, and then I actually kind of scratched the edges here to make sure it kind of has a little bit more of a rustic. So this is kind of up to you and what your taste is. And then I'm just going to use some hot glue to put on the back of these. Now, before I glue these on, I have all of these little pieces. They have things like this from Dollar Tree, like the little wooden stickers. Some of these are just in my stash. I think they all just came from different craft stores. And I just found a couple of leaves, and I was going to use that little truck up in the corner there on the right hand side. However, I decided it's a little bit too big for the block, like it kind of hung over a teeny bit and I didn't love it, so I do end up not using that. But just using some hot glue, I'm just carefully gluing that burlap on. You just want to make sure either wear your finger protectors or be really cautious as you're putting those down, because I mean that burlap, it's going to let that glue seep through, so you just don't want to burn yourself doing this. And I end up doing this on all 3 blocks. I'm just putting these little leaves on here. I thought those were really cute. And originally, like I said, I'd wanted to put that little truck on that block that's on the top there, and so I was going to leave it blank, but it just didn't quite fit, and it just didn't look right to me. So I go ahead and cut just another piece of the burlap using the same method and just glue that down for the top one, and take one of these cute little pumpkins and I just glue that on. This is just one of the wooden stickers, and you could tailor this to any season or any holiday that you wanted. But this was so simple, and it's just cute. It just brings that little essence of fall into your decor. It would be darling on a tiered tray or anywhere that you wanted to set something like this. Even just a little gift to take somebody, so easy, and it turned out so cute. You guys know how much I love a good farm truck DIY. So I found this little planter. It was from Hobby Lobby. It was in their spring collection, but I have seen they have them for fall and Christmas as well, I think. I've also seen other planters similar to this at Walmart and at JoAnns, or you could do this with any type of planter that you have. So this one in particular didn't have the windows or the tires painted in, and I actually did like the look of that. I do know at the ones they have for fall at Hobby Lobby, they already have this step done, so you wouldn't have to do this, because my lines are not the straightest. You guys know that I'm horrible at freehanding stuff, but that's okay. I'm okay with it. It just looks a little bit more farmhouse or whatever. But I do take my time and I go through on each tire, all 4 tires, and then the windows on the sides. I even do the little door handle, and then I also make sure that I do the front window in there as well, so that way all the windows look like it's an actual truck. So you could leave it either way that you wanted, or if you bought one that had these in, you could totally skip this step. Now I could glue this Spanish moss down if I wanted, but I put a lot in there, so it is pretty tight and secure in there, and I do like the fact that I can change this out for different seasons. You guys know I love that. I'm taking this brush that has a little bit of white paint on there and thought I would paint like a little sheen on the windows there, so that's totally optional too. This cute little pick, I loved the sunflower on this, so you could find whatever pick you like from Dollar Tree, Walmart, the craft store, Hobby Lobby, anywhere. And I'm just going to cut it all up here, as you can see, because I want to control the placement of everything. It was a little bulky the way that it was, and I just start playing around and sticking things in. Now I do end up gluing some of these in towards the end, so that way they could have some stability and everything. So it's up to you if you glue this in, how permanent, or if you want to change this out. I feel like the amount of glue that I put was so little that I could easily peel it off once I wanted to change this out for a different season. But I'm just kind of going around doing what looks good, what feels good. I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do this part. It's just what you like, what you want showcased. I really wanted that pumpkin kind of close to the front there. And by the front, I mean the side, I guess, because it's going to be sideways how I'm going to display it. Now on the sunflower, I decide that I don't like that leaf placement, so I just turn it over to the side there and I glue it to the other leaf. That way I make sure that it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay over on that side, because I felt like that looked a little bit better from the front of how I have it displayed. Here's where I come in and I put a little bit of glue on these leaves at the back to kind of give them a little bit more support and keep them in. So that way I just want it so if it gets bumped into, it's not going to fall apart or anything, and it's very sturdy. But look at how cute this looks. I just love this. I think it's perfect for fall. It would be great on a tiered tray, or I like to just tuck things in wherever you need a little bit of fall festive feel or something like that. But I just love how this turns out. Are you guys on Instagram? If you are, I would love if you would come and find me. I am Farm Charm Chic over there. I'll leave a link down in my description box so you can easily find me. But come and see what I'm working on. I post there quite a bit. I like to show you things that I'm working on or when I have videos ready. It's just another place to stay in touch. So if you do come find me, remember to send me a DM and say hi, because I do love meeting new friends. Sure, you've seen these little pumpkins from Dollar Tree or seen some other YouTubers do some different things with them, but hopefully I'm taking a little bit of a different take on them. So I am going to use my table saw to cut these down. So I just kind of measure them each and cut a little bit off of two of them to kind of stagger their sizes. So you can see how I did that here. For some reason, I guess I didn't hit record, but you can kind of see where I cut those off at. And I am just going to go ahead and go back in and make those little corners match, so that way they are all cohesive there. So you can see here that I just very safely make sure that you're wearing your safety glasses and everything, and I'm cutting those at that angle so that way they match. It takes me just a minute to figure out how to do those angles there, so but just make sure you can see that you get them all cut there. And I'm going to kind of, there we go, draw my line so I can get that, and just make sure that they all get cut with that little bit of an edge to make them all match one another. I'm also taking some rustic barnwood that I have from a barn that we tore down at our farm, and I'm just going to cut these the same way. I kind of stagger their sizes in with these, but make sure they have that little cornered edge there that I'm cutting the angle, so that way they'll fit right in with these Dollar Tree pumpkins. So you can see here what I'm going to do is take off the little bit of raffia bow that's on there, and I do kind of, you saw me sand a little bit to get that glitter off. Now I'm going to paint these to match the colors that I'm using for fall, which is, I'm trying to think of what the colors are here. There's pumpkin from Waverly Chalk Paint, moss from Waverly Chalk Paint, and then the plaster color from Waverly also. So I paint the three pumpkins from Dollar Tree, and then I will just leave the barnwood as the natural wood color. I do take a little bit of the antique wax and go over the stem on those Dollar Tree pumpkins to make sure that they have darkens it a little bit, because that wasn't quite the color I wanted. So I do take what's left in my brush from that plaster chalk paint, and I kind of do just lightly brush over these to give them a little bit of an aged look there. I take some square little cube blocks that I got at a package at Dollar Tree to put as the stems on these pumpkins. I thought that was kind of a fun contrast to the other stems that were there, and since those are the natural wood color, I left these the natural wood color. So I do just kind of organize these, kind of stagger them, figure out exactly how I want them to be before I connect them, glue them all to one another, which I guess is connecting, so I'm not wrong there. And then I'm just using a little bit of hot glue there and gluing those two, you can see side by side. And then I will glue those onto this one in the back. So I just go in with my glue, and I do just use hot glue for all of this. And then I just make sure you can kind of see that. There we go. Then I just place this next one here in front, and I get that kind of positioned how I want it. And I'm just kind of eyeballing. There's no method to my madness. Just what looks good to my eye is what I go with there, and connect those all together. Now I did really like the little raffia bow that was on those pumpkins, but I kind of wanted to make my own. So I had a little control over how big or little I wanted it. So I thought it would be fun to just go back in, and on those Dollar Tree pumpkins, just put a little bit of a raffia bow on each of those. And then I just leave my barnwood pumpkins plain. Now I probably should have done this before I glued them all together, but I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to distress the Dollar Tree pumpkins, but after getting them here, looking at them with the barnwood, I definitely wanted that. So I do just go in right now with a little bit of antiquing wax and go around the edges. You can easily sand to distress or not distress at all. It's really up to you. I'm just kind of hopefully giving you some type of inspiration here. I got the cutest little set of wooden leaves at Hobby Lobby. It came with a bunch of different sizes and colors. I thought they were so cute. So I am just using a little bit of super glue on the back of these, and I only glue them onto the white pumpkin just to give a little bit of embellishment, add a little extra color in there. I thought these just were so cute. What do you guys think of these? I think these are so cute for a tiered tray or even just to have sitting out on a shelf. You can easily recreate this project with any shape, size, or style of cutting board that you may have. This is just a little one that I got from the spring section at Hobby Lobby. Their spring stuff is 75% off right now if your store is lucky enough to have some left over. So I picked up a couple of these little round cutting boards to use for various things, and I'm just going to paint the round or the base portion of this orange. I think in like a normal size, like one from the Dollar Tree, like the square size or rectangle sized cutting board, this would be so cute on as well. And then I'm just using some moss paint as the stem of my pumpkin here. So I'm just painting the handle of the little cutting board or charcuterie board, whichever you want to call it. And then I do kind of go on the edge to make sure that that handle, like the green for the stem, is straight all the way around so it looks continuous all the way around. Now, I want you to know that I'm going to use some Chalk Couture transfers on here, but you could easily leave this plain. You could do a water slide decal. You could glue something else to embellish it. This is open to your interpretation how you want to embellish this. I just had this cute little saying from Chalk Couture, and I can leave a link down in my description box if you want to know a little bit more about Chalk Couture, because it is a lot of fun and it's kind of like screen printing. And I'm just putting on the white chalk paste here and scraping that on, and then you'll peel back this transfer and you'll be able to see all of the words and the cute little fall saying that I have here. I'm curious to know, if you were to create this, what saying or what would you embellish yours with? So let me know down in the comments. This just says pumpkin kisses and harvest wishes, and I thought that was so cute. And then of course I just wanted to add a little bit of twine to it to kind of give it that little farmhouse touch, and also to give it the little like hanging handle back on the top. So I just threaded a looped part of the twine through, and you can see how I did that, how I looped that through and tie that off. And then I take just some little twine, just regular jute twine, and I make a cute little bow. I just tie it ahead of time rather than tie it around the cutting board. And then I go ahead and just glue that on with some hot glue. Now this would be a perfect project if you did want to paint the other side a different color, or maybe paint a cute little jack-o'-lantern face. You could flip it around, make it dual purpose or something like that. This little size is perfect for a tiered tray, but think how cute a larger size would be leaned up against your counter or your backsplash in your kitchen. It would be so cute. I love how this turns out. What do you guys think of this one? I have never seen these at Dollar Tree before, but this is a cute little like door hanger here. It's got the cute little beaded tassel thing on it, and then the leaf on there. Now they are monogrammed, and I don't need the letter S, but sometimes when you find these, they only have like random letters that you don't need. So I'm just using some spackle on the back of it to cover that up, and then I'm just going to let that dry, and then I paint it with some white paint. Now you could paint this whatever color you wanted. Honestly, if you wanted to cut out some scrapbook paper to do on there, that might even be an easier process than what I'm doing, and then you can kind of make it as colorful or however you want. But I just paint both sides of that white, and I have these little rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree, and I'm trying to decide where to place it to get like the most on there, and I end up deciding to kind of cut them and place them custom like where I want them, so that way I can get as many as I want and the different colors. But these rub-on transfers are so cool. If you've never seen me use them before, you just lay them down on your item, and you're just using like a popsicle stick or craft stick, and you're just kind of putting quite a bit of pressure on there just to rub it from that plastic onto your surface. And if you kind of lift it up a little bit, and you can kind of see like, oh, that didn't, you can see I placed it back down, and then I know that I need to like rub a little bit more on an area, and so you can make sure that you get it all. Now this one, I was putting some of them off so it looked like it was like a seamless pattern or something, and so you can kind of see that I go over the edge
with some of them. So that's up to you if you want to do something like that. That's why I said maybe scrapbook paper would work really good for this too if you can't find these rub-on transfers. But I loved these pumpkins. I loved kind of the muted color, and I love, if you've watched my videos for fall, you know that I've been using like the plaster color, the pumpkin color, and the sage color from Waverly's chalk paint, or sage or moss, or maybe I've been using both. But anyways, it's kind of a muted green color, not so like in your face. But I'm just taking some Mod Podge and I go over to seal that design in because they will scratch off. And then just taking some antique wax. This is totally optional, but it kind of gives a little bit of a distress to it. And I like the defined edge on it. So that's a matter of personal preference, but I do kind of rub the excess off on the front of that, so on my leaf there, so that way it does kind of look distressed too. And then I even go over the beads just a little bit. And then on the back side, that's where the letter was. You can't even see where that S was. I do the same thing. I think this just turns out really cute. It's something cute to have hanging from a wreath. If you have like a ladder that you put your dish towels on or something, it would be really cute hanging on those, or even off of like a door to a china hutch or pantry or something. I just think this turns out really cute. One of the fun things of being a creator and a crafter is a lot of times you'll just be at the craft store or a boutique store or somewhere, and you'll see really cute things and you'll think, hey, I think I can probably make that. So I saw these cute pumpkins at Hobby Lobby and thought, I can probably make something similar. So I did just buy the largest size dowel that they had at Hobby Lobby. Make sure that you get it when it's on sale. That way it was only a couple of dollars. And I measured them down, and I cut, these are 6 inches that I cut this first set as, and I paint this set completely orange. I cut 4 of them because I'm going to glue them together to make one pumpkin. And then my next set, I believe I cut, these are 3 inches that I cut. And so I paint these a green color. These are just kind of the colors that I'm going with for fall this year. And this is all Waverly chalk paint that I'm using. I absolutely love the Waverly chalk paint. And I do just use a little bit of wood glue and then just a teeny bit of hot glue. That just gives it that little bit of a temporary hold, so that way you can kind of make sure that it really does adhere. So I'm going to glue the 4 orange ones together, and then I'll go back in and glue the green ones together also. After I did those 2, I decided I needed one more, but I did not have any more of that size of dowel. So I did take just a plunger handle and I cut these down to be right in between these 2 sizes, which I think ended up being about 4.5 inches. And then just the same process, I painted them with white and I glued them together, everything like that. And then we're on to making a stem for these. For the stem, I just used some scrap pieces of dowel wood. You could even use like the handles off of some of the foam brushes that you've used would work. Even like a stick from your yard would work fine. Just anything that looks like a stem, and you're just going to cover it in a brown or green or whatever color of paint you'd like to use. The next thing that I do is I go in and on all of the edges on these little pumpkins, I take the antiquing wax and I just kind of go over them to kind of make them pop, make it look like the little ridges that you see in a pumpkin. It kind of makes all those edges show. So I just really kind of go in and distress these really good. So then I just take the hot glue and I just glue each of the little stems onto the pumpkin. I did a green stem on my white pumpkin and my orange pumpkin, and then a brown stem on my green pumpkin. So I kind of like the way that looked.
And then I do decide they need a little something extra, so you can see there that I just go ahead and tie a couple raffia bows to put on them. Look at how cute these look. I think they turned out so cute and so fun. Now, the ones I saw at Hobby Lobby only came in orange, so I'm so excited that I got to make my own and kind of have them in the colors that I want. This is such a simple DIY. I hope that you try this because it was so fun. Now, I did find this wire in the jewelry section at Walmart, but you could easily just use, you could use zip ties, you could just use twine to tie these off with, however you wanted. I'm just going to, I end up making 8 loops. I start out with 6, but realize I need more, just of some jute twine. So this is just twine that came from Dollar Tree. I wrap it around each of my hands 20 times. So you could do more or less depending on your style, but just so you know, I did 20 times that I wrapped around and then I snipped it off. And then I just kind of tied it off with that wire. I wrapped that around so that way it stayed in place. But again, you could just use a short piece of jute twine to tie these off in the middle, so you wouldn't have to buy an extra thing of wire or anything if you didn't have that on hand. Now, after you get all of your rings, now remember that I end up doing 8, but I started with 6. I'm just going to use some hot glue and glue each of these together in the center. So where you have tied these together, either with your wire or the twine, I'm just using a little bit of glue. If you need to use your silicone finger protectors, do that because you are working very close with your fingers and the hot glue. So just pay attention to that. But I just waited for each little section to dry before gluing on the next section. And I decided to glue 3 and then 3. So I was doing like one half of the pumpkin and then the other half of the pumpkin, and so you can kind of see how I did that here. Now, depending on how tightly or the size of your hands or your loops, however you did your loops here, 6 may be enough, but when I got them together, I just realized that I wanted to have it a little bit more full. At this point, I just glued them to a stick that I found in my yard. It looked like a really cute pumpkin stem. So I'm gluing those first 3 onto this one here. And then I just put some glue around and I will glue this other half onto the pumpkin. This is when I got them together. And you can see I reached my fingers through to kind of grip those together around that stem. But you can kind of see the side of my pumpkin there that it really did just need another loop in there. So again, I just wrapped it around 20 times. I tied it off either with my wire or your jute twine, and then I just kind of reached in and glued it in. Once I added that, you can kind of see I felt like it needed another one to kind of make it a little bit more even. So again, the same process. This would be something so fun to do with like kids or grandkids. You of course would want to just help them with the hot glue part, but I mean they could easily wrap the twine around and everything and make these cute little pumpkins that ends up being so darling. I absolutely just love how this turns out. So this last one I did with just tying the twine on there. So if you need to rewind that to see, but that does show you kind of how I tied the twine on instead of using the wire. So I glue that one in and I just fluff it up a little bit to kind of make sure that it looks as full as I want it. And then I just wanted to put some hot glue around here because I'm adding some Spanish moss. I've been loving using Spanish moss in my fall decor. I don't know if it's just that it gives it a special softness or if it looks like pumpkin vines or what it is, but I've really enjoyed it. And I do just trim it up because I don't like it to be too wild and out of control. And then I have this pick that's from Dollar Tree, and I love these little silvery greenish blue leaves. So you can see I'm just putting some glue on the end of that, and I'll glue that in just as a little bit of the pumpkin leaf there to kind of add a different color to it. I'm just really pleased with how it looks. And I felt like it needed a little something else, so I just take some raffia and I'm just making a little bow. So I just kind of loop it around several times and then just tie that off in the center. This just adds another little bit of texture to it. I felt like the bow just kind of sets it off there a little bit, and I really love how that looks on there. I just think this turns out absolutely adorable, especially for how simple it was to make. It would be so cute sitting on a coffee table, just a perfect decor. This would be perfect to leave out for Thanksgiving, even all season long. What do you guys think of this one?
Thank you so much for joining me today and watching some of my favorite tiered tray size DIYs. Did you guys have a favorite from today? I would love to know which one down in the comments. These are all fun, not necessarily ones that I put on my tiered tray all at the same time. Of course I did here just for the sake of the video, but even just a couple of them would bring such a fun fall feeling to any of your tiered trays. As always, guys, I would like to remind you to be safe, be smart, be nice, be happy, choose to have a good day because you are amazing. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you next time. If you enjoyed the video that you just saw, here's another one that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching and have an amazing day.